I didn't think so. Oh, no, it is. Thank you, Jack.
Yay.
Okay, I'll start over. So this is the preliminary plat for Whispering Aspen, third edition. It's located up in the northern end of the city. Whispering Aspen, including all future phases of the development, was approved as a planned unit development back in 2004. The third edition consists of 41 single-family urban lots as shown up on the screen. The original planned unit development, or we call them PUDs, was approved as follows. Lot size was 10,000 square feet, lot width 75 feet, street right-of-way width 30 feet. I have it listed in your report, what the things that were approved back then. All the lots in the third edition meet the requirements as approved by the PUD. Actually, these lots are bigger than those. I believe, and they're bigger than what they are in the first and second edition as well. The preliminary plat will be accessed through the existing street of Pierce Street. And I thought I had a slide showing the location map and the aerial. I don't have that on my PowerPoint. The PUD approved right-of-way street width is 30 feet. The third edition street width complies with this requirement if you look at the preliminary plat, so it does have the 30 feet of right-of-way. And then as stated in the amended and reinstated purchase agreement dated January 8th, 2004, between the City of East Bethel and Firebird Lane LLC, states that the developments will remain street widths and other similar design concepts to the current existing street plans in the first phase. So leaving the right-of-way at 30 feet and lot widths and setbacks in this development will coincide with all the other previous phases that's been approved. The third edition contains one cul-de-sac that will be accessed by 4 homes, or have 4 lots off of it. Some of you might remember previously, the second edition was approved with 6 lots accessing the cul-de-sac. And at that time, there was much discussion regarding the number of lots on the cul-de-sac. This phase, there will be more snow removal, or more room for the snow removal and management in the cul-de-sac. So we're
Thank you.
yes, down 2 lots. In total, there will be 143 lots in the development. That's with all the phases now. So city staff, planning, public works, and fire have concerns with only one ingress and egress point to the development. It's a public safety concern as we see it, especially with the fire department. So in a public safety event, if it was to require closing the Pierce Street, there'd be no other viable ways to enter or exit this development. Also, the additional access point would relieve some traffic using off of Pierce Street. So up here you'll see the plat. What's been proposed and what city staff was thinking is the extension of, what street is that? Oh, Polk Street, going south, so it hooks up with 241st. That's what staff's thought was. There may be enough room with that lot where they wouldn't even lose a lot in the development, but that's staff's suggestion at this time. Staff is also requesting, as part of your discussion, that the commission discuss this access concern and provide a recommendation to City Council with requiring another access point into the development. Planning, Public Works, and Fire completed a review of the plat. Again, the 3 departments did recommend a second access point to the development. The city engineer's comments dated May 17th of 2022 are attached as part of your report. The majority of the engineering comments are minor in nature and will not affect the number of lots in the development or the layout. All engineering comments must satisfactorily be addressed prior to the submittal of the final plat for approval. As stated in the amended and reinstated purchase agreement as well, park dedication fees shall not be required of the purchaser in the platting process since parks are already included in the project. Therefore, no park dedication fees will be collected. And then I just wanted to show you, I talked about the ghost platting. Again, this was something that was approved back in 2003, 2004. This was the ghost plat on how it could be redeveloped, or how it could be developed. And if you look at the third edition, it's the same as what they're proposing. So at this time, the Planning Commission is required to hold the public hearing, gather public input, and make a recommendation to the City Council, including the potential extension of Polk Street Northeast to the south. An approval recommendation should be contingent on the conditions set forth in the attached resolution 2022-36. If supported by the Commission, a condition must be added to require an additional ingress-egress point to the development. That's the end of my report, and we do have the developer and landowner here to answer any questions that you may have of him.
Thank you, Stephanie. As this is a public hearing at this time, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak on this matter, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Keep in mind, we will address all questions at the end.
Oh, okay.
Once the public hearing's over.
I have a few. My name is Leah Olson. I live on 1122 241st. So I live the house right after Pierce on the left-hand side. So before I see all the traffic coming in from Pierce on a daily basis. So I guess my concern is me almost daily leaving my driveway, I get hit or almost hit by a car leaving Pierce on the regular. When I'm coming home every day, everybody thinks that I'm taking a right into Pierce when I need to go one house past and take a left. And nobody seems to think that I'm passing Pierce. So I guess my concern is adding that many homes in that area, what the traffic plan is. Also living in that area with having that empty lot for 10 plus years. I have lived there for, let's see, my son is gonna be 13, so about 12 years. All the trees in that area, what's the plan for regrowing trees and things? Cause I would imagine that most of those trees are gonna be gone. And then my other concern is, I get that the ghost plan was in place, but with the housing market when it crashed and then they weren't able to develop at that time, why can't it get looked at for looking at the new laws? Because I know that the newer laws is a higher acreage per home in the city of East Bethel. I don't know that for sure, but what I've seen before is that there's more acreage per home, and I just think that that's been so long that have people thought of changing it to less homes. I'm not naive to the fact that it, is going to be a housing development, but that's a lot of homes in that little chunk of area. When East Bethel, I think quite a few years ago, changed it and had concerns about that then. And then my other concern, just more of being a hippie type person, is I have a well. I invested in a brand new well. I'm concerned about that many lawns, extra chemicals in the land that's just north of me that's going to go into my well system. So I guess that's kind of my concerns and questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on the matter?
Good evening, I'm Andy Munn. I am at 24150 Whispering Circle. So brand new, been there like all of a week. So, and our home is right about here. So, and right now we are enjoying the beauty of that open land. And we knew, I'm a realtor also, so I obviously when I first saw the home, called the city, said, what's the scoop with this land? I noticed on the sheet here, it says it's zoned R2, single family and townhome. My concern is, are they truly going to be just single family homes? I'm concerned with the number of lots there, because that does, I agree with you, Leah, it seems like an awful lot of lots in that little bit of space. And of course, and the egress. I mean, from a safety standpoint, from a traffic flow standpoint, that seems crazy in a lot of different ways to me, to have only one egress and access at all for that many homes. So my biggest concerns, again, the number of lots, is it truly gonna be single family, and the egress for all of that extra traffic flow. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My name is Robert Strand. I just moved into 24125 Skylark Skylark Drive. I guess which is just right back here. I was just curious to what. I guess I don't know exactly how to state it. Kind of bouncing off what she was saying about the trees, everything going on. Is there plan on clear cutting everything out and just starting from scratch? Because the biggest thing that I have noticed just moving there, people that had our property didn't take care of the land at all, and there is a lot of sand. So if we come through, you get rid of all those trees, everything, we'll talk, erosion, stuff like that, and then that goes into the chemicals going into the drinking water. It's not like down south where I'm used to, where we have good, dirt. It's sand. And with sand, everything goes down. So, when you got all those properties in there, everybody doing fertilizer, stuff like that, that is a concern when a lot of people are running wells. And I guess secondly, septic and sewer, sewer lines and stuff like that, is that everybody gonna be transferring onto that? And then with me being on the back side of here, would I have to be forced onto going onto the sewer? I guess we are just in the process of getting the septic put in right now. So, just curious about all those things, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, one more thing, sorry. When is the exact start?
Can you approach the podium, please?
When is the exact start point of the construction, or even coming through, clearing out the land, removing the trees? I guess just the first initial groundbreaking, you'd say.
Thank you. Anyone else before we close the public hearing?
Sorry, I forgot something to do. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll do it very quick. The tree thing too, for me, so where our fence ends, there are a lot of smaller seedling evergreens towards the back of what will be future lots. So what is the plan? Is everything gonna be flat gutted out, or will they make an effort to try and leave some trees to have some kind of buffer between the neighborhoods or between the homes? And I was also wondering on ETA for starting on all of this, so thank you.
My name is Rachel Johnson. We just moved into the 1046 Fillmore Circle. We've been there almost a year, and when we first moved in, we had a survey done and everything and put in a fence. And the developer came to my house and told me I couldn't put my fence in, so I had to get the permit and everything was finalized. So I just want to know how this will affect our fence that we just put in on our property for this new development that we didn't know was going in when we bought that home, so.
All right, thank you.
I'll just make one additional comment that about the trees. One example is that I would have thought this, let's see, right here. This house was brand new as of last summer on there. There was beautiful trees in that lot that were back to the back end of his property, and they didn't keep any of them. And I don't know if that's maybe the individual person that buys the home or the developer, but that's another concern where it would be very nice to know a plan for that. And then when we moved in, we similarly asked around, and I just am frustrated that a lot of the people in the area that live in that area felt like it wasn't going to be developed or that, I don't know, just my frustration that a lot of people in that area didn't believe that this would be happening in this many homes in that area.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I know we have the developer here. I don't know if they'd like to help address some of the questions that have come up.
I can
Oh,
address
Oh,
some of
sorry,
them too.
Stephanie, if you don't mind first.
I can address the one that I can, and then I'll have you address the other ones.
Thank you, Stephanie.
So, let's see here. There was a couple concerns about the density of this and wanting it to be acreage lots and thinks that lots should be larger. So this area is zoned R2, which is single family and townhomes. So what our code says is if you have city sewer and water available to that site, you can have single family homes on lots that are, I think it's 11,200 square feet. So they do meet that density requirement. They aren't getting any more than what they should be, so that meets it. And it is only single family homes in here. There will not be townhomes. So I got that.
What is 11,200 square feet as far as acres?
It's about a quarter acre.
Okay.
Yeah, and the PUD actually was approved at, I believe, 10,000 square feet, so they could go smaller, but in this portion of the development, they're quite a bit bigger than that. So they're well over the quarter acre lots too.
Yeah.
Let's see, the fence question from Rachel. And I believe I may have talked to you at this point too, and I know Aaron did on staff about the fence. And I believe this is the fence that you're talking about, that it was placed in a drainage utility easement as well. And Mr. Mundell can also answer this question as well, but it's my understanding that your fence will need to be removed in some of that area, but he can expand on that. Okay, well, Mr. Mundell can answer that one. I know we had discussed it previously. I think those are all the ones that I can answer.
The question about adding sewer.
Oh, sewer, yes, yes. So all of these lots are on city sewer and water. Your lot that's to the west will not be hooking up to sewer and water. It's just specifically for this development. And then, Brian, if you wanted to get up and answer some of the other ones?
I'm Brian Mundell. I am the developer of the property, and I purchased the property from the city in 2004. I gave them a ghost plat for the entire parcel at that time, and it was approved by the city at that time. This reflects that exact, so I haven't changed anything. And for the trees, I'm sorry, I just can't keep very many trees out there. We gotta dig up the whole place in order to do this. And I'd love to keep trees, but if there's trees in the way of where we gotta dig, then they gotta go. If you take the west side, right now there is a lot of nice pine trees over there. There is a 20-foot easement over on that side, and the city planted those pines years ago. And then they died, and then the city replanted them. I have no intentions of taking those pines out. They're all gonna stay. On 241st, there are a few more pines. They are all gonna stay. And unfortunately, there are some places along the other east lot line where I do have to take out the vegetation because there's gonna be a storm sewer that has to go through there to drain the plat. And so I do have to take those out. I would love to leave all the trees. The rest of the development, I always left trees until I could figure out where the house went, and then I tried to leave the rest. But unfortunately, a lot of trees do have to come down, so.
Is there a plan to replace any, like they did
There is no requirement for this development to do that. I do know that once I sell a house to somebody, first thing they do is plant trees. You can see it throughout the other phases. You know, they go right in there and start planting, probably before they even move in. So I'm sure you're gonna see that. And so the fence issue, you put the fence right on your property line, and there's a sidewalk gonna go exactly where that fence is. And the easement that's on your property is for snow storage. So when they plow the road, they have someplace to put the snow. And that's why the fence literally can't be there. The city will knock it down. I didn't institute this. The city wanted these things put there. I just have to do what the city says, so unfortunately.
Well, we got it approved by the city.
Yep.
We have an approval letter right here.
They inspected it and everything, the city let us. So are they gonna pay us to remove it and move it over? and
I
move
think
it
that you might have to talk to the city about that.
Yeah, you'll have to talk to the city. It was my understanding that it was told to you that the fence would have to be removed and that, so I will have to discuss that at a later date.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be something I would suggest bringing up to the city outside of the meeting.
I'm sure it'll be taken care of. City's always been very cooperative with its people in the city, so. Were there any other questions I could answer?
I think they brought up the starting point.
Oh, starting date.
Well, I don't know what the starting date's gonna be because we have to go through all this. We have to go through city council, engineering has to be completed. So I can't tell you, but proposing sometime this summer. As you know, we're having real trouble getting parts and supplies for every business, including mine. And so right now, we might have to, I don't know. It's, we're taking this one step at a time and trying to move forward to get the job done. But unfortunately, supplies are very limited. We're building homes and I have to order my supplies to build a home months in advance, just to build one home, so it's a challenge.
And when will the decision be made on the access, the egress for that, or the additional streets to be put in?
That'll go, we're gonna discuss that tonight, and then we'll make our recommendation.
And then it'll have to go to city council
Yes.
because this body is
An
only
advisory.
responsible to advise the city council. It's, the vote at city council is when the decision will be final.
And when does that take place? Again, brand new to the city, so I don't know, are city council meetings public access? Are they every second? whatever
This discussion
Thursday?
needs to be at the
Yeah.
podium.
So we'll address those questions, man. So, I was gonna ask you, Mr. Mundell, though, what your opinion was on the extension of Polk Street, adding the ingress and egress.
Well, until the city asked for that, I never even envisioned it. The original street going in there is wide enough, it was built wide enough to contain 334 homes. And we aren't anywhere near that. I mean, that's one of the reasons the city wanted me to come in there and do what I'm doing, because I lowered the value of the homes way down to about 150 or so. So, but Pierce Street was built to handle that access. And if you look at the codes for how long a street can be before you can't have a cul-de-sac, we're not anywhere near what the established codes are for length of streets. So, and eventually, there will be another access coming out to Johnson Street to the east. That'll come out beside the community center and run across the property to Johnson Street. And there is already a lift station at that point. I donated the land to the city to build their lift station there. So, I personally don't see any reason to do this. If we do it, if the city wants it done, then we're gonna have to make structural changes to the plat. And that could take another 2 months to do that, so.
Thank you. Well, ma'am, sorry, the public hearing's closed, or we can't do the talk back, it's recording. But, well, I appreciate that, I just wanted to get your take on what your opinion was on it.
Okay.
Any other questions for the developer? We'd have to reopen the public hearing to do that, at this time the public hearing's closed.
Is there a possibility to reopen that, to ask a question? Is that an option? I just have a basic general question, how long this plat was presented and accepted and approved back in 2004, that was 19 years ago, or however many years ago, a long time ago. Is there an expiration date on it?
No, there's not an expiration date on it. It was approved in 2004, and again, if there was recourse, there isn't a whole lot because it was already approved.
Okay, I just
Back,
don't know how long, if
approved
it's
that.
approval ahead of time, so I can-
No, there's no timestamp on it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm confused about the 2004 approving this because we were just told that the number of lots and the size are related to sewer and water, and we didn't even have sewer and water as an issue till 2007 as far as discussing it.
This lot up here had a standalone treatment center, or the standalone,
One that was tied in with the trailer park.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
tied in with the trailer park up there. So that's what they were accessing for water and sewer. So technically, they've always had sewer and water up there.
Okay, so, but that sewer and water was problematic for a long time. I don't know back then particularly.
Yep, so it got decommissioned and now there's sewer and water up there. The municipal urban sewer, services are up there now.
But the plan was originally approved based on sewer and water, which is why it's the size it is.
That's correct.
That plant was put in 1970, so it's had sewer and water since 1970.
Yeah, thank you. So, but before we go into further discussion, is there a motion on the table? Or any other questions of the developer before we move into a motion?
I have a question in regards to the egress. Is this something that, from what I understood, it was being
Let's wait till we have
Sure.
a motion for that.
Yep.
Thank you. Gabriel. So, at this time, is there a motion before we continue discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and create a motion for the Whispering Aspens third edition for the preliminary plat as it's read currently with the recommendations and the city engineering requirements.
I'll second.
Discussion? Gabriel, you had a question regarding the ingress egress?
Yeah, it sounds like this is, it's required that they're gonna have to add this, correct? And then the drawing shows where it was thought would be the best place for it. Can you pull the slide back up with the drawn-in egress? So this right here is going to be required, or at least some form of egress, is that correct?
No, not necessarily required. It's the city
It's
is.
yeah, city staff is recommending it.
Okay.
So it's a discussion for planning commission and, this body will make a recommendation to
Mhm.
city council about it.
So this would probably be for you, Brian, then if this went in right there, you would more than likely lose at least one of your lots.
If you could address at the podium, sir. Thank you.
In order to put that in there, I would have to expand that out in two directions in order to put that in there. And in the process, I've already recalculated that it would take at least 2 lot sales to pay for this.
Mhm.
And so I would have to go back and replat this so that I can gain them 2 lots to pay for that street.
Mhm.
So, street work is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
Stephanie, with knowing that there's going to be a future extension to Johnson, does that change the staff's opinion, or I'm assuming that was already factored in?
That was already factored in.
Okay, thank you.
Well, while you're up there, I have a question. The earlier editions show different house configurations with variety to some extent. This plat shows everything looking like the same house, just ticky-tacked all over. Is that
It's just a picture.
so? But is your intention to have some variation in the?
Oh, yes, we've been building one-level homes for seniors. We've been building split levels of multiple different designs, 3 levels and 4 levels in the development. We have not been putting any full basements because the water table is,
What it is?
can't dig down 8 feet.
Mm.
You're gonna be too close to the water table.
Right, but you're not going to be putting this identical house to your.
No,
Good.
no. I'm sure there's gonna be identical houses throughout the development, but not every single one. I don't believe in that. You know, they're not all gonna be brown. It's gonna be colorful.
Thank you.
There'll be some variety. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever the customer wants, except a black bathtub, I don't go for those.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we know what the length of this street is that leads up to the cul-de-sac? I mean, it's got, 2 streets coming into the road before it makes its way up there. I'm just curious what the length of street was that Brian was referring to when he said it was legal to have the cul-de-sac there.
Yeah, so the way that we measure, I can't remember off the top of my head, is it 1,200 feet in length? Jack, do you know? 500? So, yeah, so anything over 500 feet, you can't have a cul-de-sac unless
Okay.
it's a temporary cul-de-sac and it's gonna be extended.
Uh-huh.
That's how the code reads. And what he's saying is that he meets the requirements of the code for cul-de-sac lengths, and he does.
Because of the street coming off the other
That's,
side.
yep, that's correct.
If the fire chief is happy with that cul-de-sac, I'm happy with that cul-de-sac.
So I'd like to go back and address the egress that is being talked about to 241st. Has there been discussions about placing it anywhere else? One of the things that I wonder about is whether or not having this egress, well, it's probably not the best placement, but having it directly across from Fillmore Street North, that's rather close to the cul-de-sac, so that you have kind of a continuous street that crosses 241st? Or was that just deemed not to be a safety, or was that a safety concern? Or is is the only option to kind of continue that egress along Polk Street down to 241st?
Did you mean Taylor?
Not Pierce.
Were you talking
No,
like?
no, he's
Talking between lot 15 and 16?
between 16 and 17, I think he's saying.
From here to here,
Oh, I see
Yep.
what you're saying.
because this is Fillmore
Oh,
Street,
right.
Yeah.
and having a four-way rather than
Mm-hmm.
having it separate. So my
Instead of
question
another
is,
stop.
Has that been considered?
At a staff level, we took a look at it and we thought the same thing with the cul-de-sac because the cul-de-sac was right there. Everything just seemed so consolidated right there.
Then,
And we didn't have a spot picked out. We didn't think there was a spot that would be the best spot. We just presented it as right there. A little bit more spacing from Pierce Street.
so you don't see maybe an issue either with this egress being, at least according to what you're considering here, is to be a little off-center from directly in line with Polk Street? So that
Well,
this is more of a T rather than,
Yeah, and we're not necessarily saying it just like that too. We just in that vicinity. And it would have.
Consideration makes for better traffic flow and development within all that western edge. You don't have a T intersection, you have a short street, turn on 241st, make a right angle turn, you go 90 feet, you make another right angle turn. But this is almost a straight line to Polk Street. So it's better traffic flow and also spaces out more distance between the intersections.
I guess what I was looking at was someone entering the development from 241st and wanting to continue on to Polk Street. They're gonna have to jog left and then jog back right, basically kind of a Z cut to get onto that road again. I mean, I guess it's not a killer for me, but it just seems kind of odd to me that you'd have that kind of look to it.
Right in the corner. Ma'am, sorry.
Yeah, and it
Thank
could
you.
be a straight shot. It was just a sketch that we came up with. Just somewhere in that vicinity.
So my other question, thank you, I think you've answered that particular question for me. So my other question is, on the other side of the development, or Polk Street, Fillmore Circle, I wish I'd gone up and seen it today. I really wish I had. This corner that kind of swings around that it's going to attach to seems like a pretty sharp turn. Is there going to be a stop sign here?
Off of
on
are you talking about
Polk
241st?
Street?
When you're,
When Polk Street meets Fillmore Circle?
Fillmore Circle.
That 90-degree bend.
oh, again, it's something preliminary and that's something that the city engineer would be working on with them. And again, the layout of that egress ingress could change as well. Like I say, it could be just a straight shot. We don't know. It's just something that we're proposing and if city council says, yes, we want another one, then the developer would need to come back with plans. Not saying that it has to be just like that.
The issue about a 500-foot cul-de-sac limit length
Mm-hmm.
typically is talking about when we have a lot smaller development in terms of number of houses on that cul-de-sac. So we not only have at least twice as many, if not more, houses than is normal throughout the city, but we have the cul-de-sac is actually serving there's two cul-de-sacs in one, basically. So then again, it's doubled again because of the Taylor Street. So to me, you definitely need the other access point for a safety issue because you have that many more houses that if Pierce were closed, if a tree fell across it or whatever happened, there was a big fire, all these people would be trapped in this development. So I think you definitely need another way out.
Well, it does seem too like if, I mean, having an additional way in or out also is gonna help on the traffic flow, so everybody's not funneling all through the same streets coming out. At least it's a little more distributed with traffic flow if there's another way in and out.
But if we ask, or if we make that recommendation and the city council approves that, or decides on that, or be okay if they come back, as the developer stated, that if he needs to make up those 2 lots and he puts 2 more, goes back to 6 houses in a cul-de-sac, because he can, and that's what was approved. Just saying, food for thought.
This is a plan unit development, correct?
Yes.
A plan unit development is supposed to somehow benefit the city, which is why we do this. So that's what's being looked out for, is the safety and the concerns of the city and the citizens. So I don't think we're starting from a standpoint of we have to match number of houses with what's proposed. We have to do what is the right thing to do. Whether that means a lot has to be added or not is quite a secondary concern as far as my thought process.
Once the planned unit development is approved or accepted, is that something like, the city has control on the front side of that, but once it's approved and accepted, it's not really able to be changed, like I think maybe you're implying, Glenn? Is that what you're saying, that we could change maybe what the planned unit development is approving already?
No, I guess, no, what I was addressing was, I don't really know what I was addressing the idea that we have to accommodate a certain number of houses here. But the PUD is a mechanism to give and take that should benefit the city. And I don't see what is benefiting the city of putting all these houses in here, but we're allowing it because that's the rules or whatever has been set up that puts us in this position. But I don't see how putting that many houses helps the city in and of itself.
Well, having more homes for more residents in the city is always a benefit.
Well,
And
then
it's
why don't
also
we
a
build
benefit.
high-rises?
Hmm?
And why don't we build high-rises?
I think that's a bit out of context.
I know no, I'm just saying the extension of your point, it's not just the more houses, the better, everybody's happy. It's quality of life. It's how resources are allocated in the city.
But as the developer stated too, that this was part of the agreement when he purchased the lot 20 years ago from the city, was based on how he was going to put the lots in and together. And at that time, they valued how he was going to do it. And that's why my guess was approved then. Predates my time.
So then is this something that can be changed now that the PUD is already accepted and in place?
It's something that could be discussed at city council.
I would point out that this has already been changed. Was not part of the discussion that the number of houses around the cul-de-sac have been reduced from 6 to 4. Was that not correct? Did I not hear that correctly?
Yeah, but the plan hasn't changed. This is the same ghost plan that was approved, or that was brought forward back in 2004.
Correct.
But they just have less homes on the cul-de-sac. So they didn't change it specifically for this third edition to turn it in this time. It's always been like that.
Well,
And the only reason I
my
brought
point being is that from the original agreement in 2004 to now, the number of homes has changed, correct?
No,
No. The
It is
second
the
edition
same.
is what had the cul-de-sac with 6 homes in it.
yes, and
And
the only
so-
reason I brought that up is because it was, there was a lot of discussion on that being too many homes on the cul-de-sac, so I was just pointing out that on this one, they're having less homes on the cul-de-sac. They didn't remove lots. This is what was approved on the ghost plan back in 2004.
Thank you for correcting me. I think, though, that the point about safety and access are still valid. And if, assuming that the planning commission agrees with that particular assessment, then what needs to happen is an amendment needs to be made to the current motion. And so therefore, I will make a motion to amend to add the egress access to 241st/Polk to be determined exactly how that's going to be planned out between the developer and the engineers and the city.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that before we vote on it? About whether we have put it in there? The only thing I would address with that is does the amendment need to be so specific to Polk, or is it better to send the recommendation, if approved, to City Council with just a general recommendation that a second access point is recommended by this body?
I would accept the
Amendment to the amendment.
alteration to the amendment,
Just thinking more general than,
assuming that
Specific.
that the second also approves.
Yes.
okay. Any further discussion? Gabriel?
So we'd be recommending that they recommend again to the developer, or recommending that they require this? Because I think that's what you're getting at, Randy, is that we
I'm-
want to see it happen.
I'm asking for it to be added.
Yes.
So not a,
So then it would be, if this body votes to approve the original amendment, now with an amendment, or for the original motion, with this amendment, then it would go forth that we recommend for approval of this PUD with the recommendation of having a second access point.
and they can work that out between the developer
And City Council, because they may have more input as opposed to
Sure.
our recommendation saying
Yep.
something specific like
this spot exactly.
on Polk 241st, and then they're looking at just that or hearing just that as opposed to that they have an opinion on where they might want.
Thank you.
So we have a motion, a second. Call for any other discussion. All in favor of the motion with the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe motion passes. So this will go before,
So here's your question about city council. So this will go to city council on June 13th, Monday, June 13th at 7 PM.
and typically before city council, there is a public forum at that point. If you want to speak on matters that are coming beforehand, they'll hear comments and concerns at that time.
Did we just vote on his?
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
We have only voted on the amendment. We still have the original motion on the floor.
Thank you for the correction. I thought I had stated before we called for the vote for the amendment with the motion, but thank you for the point of order. So we have the amendment approved. Do we want to vote on, or if we're ready to vote?
I don't-
Any further discussion on the original
I'm not
motion?
aware that you could combine them. It's possible, but
I'll take your word on it. So any further discussion on the original motion on the floor? Hearing none, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Still going before City Council, June 19th,
June 13th.
13th, thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 5, council updates. Councilmember Mundell?
Good evening, members of Planning and Zoning. I hope this evening finds you well. I thank you for attending on such a fine evening that it is outside.
Finally.
I'm Brian Mundell, and your liaison to council, and I have a couple things to talk about. Council held a special meeting with the EDA to have the broadband gap analysis presented to them. It was presented by the company that did it, and there's some discussion. It kind of looks like the next step is to attempt to do a speed test survey by the residents where we'd have some sort of web page where the residents could test their own speed and then report it, so we get a better idea of what actual speeds are we getting out there. And then next step after that would be what can we do to improve. Council accepted the 2021 city audit, and the city is in good standing. Improvements at the ice arena were approved. They'll be conducted in the summer 2020, be finished before our ice time begins in the fall. Some of the improvements will be lobby improvements, painting and cleaning the interior. When I say cleaning, I mean power washing certain areas, do a deep clean before they paint, and renovating the public restrooms. And update on the animal control situation. We approved a contract with the Animal Humane Society for animal impound. It's not our ideal choice of what we want to do. We sent out our request for proposals, and unfortunately we got 0 back. And when asked what the other cities who contracted with North Metro were doing, they are going to the Humane Society as well. So until we can come up with a better solution, this is what it will be, and I expect that we'll be talking more about this year. July 16th, Booster Day. Looking forward to it. Any questions? Any comments?
I have one. So this agreement with the Humane Society, is it still going to be their policy that after an animal has been left there, 5 days? What is going to be the disposition of the animal that arrives at the Humane Society?
As to what will happen with the animal?
Yes, as to whether or not it will be given to a rescue or whether or not it will be terminated.
I believe it is state statute that after 5 days, the animal becomes property of the Humane Society, and I'm not positive, but I believe that they try to rehome them. I think that's one of their main courses of the Humane Society is to rehome animals. And unless Jack has something to intercede on that, but to add to that.
The only thing I would have to say is, you're correct, it becomes the property of the Humane Society, and their goal is to rescue those out, find a new home for them, but euthanization is always the last option, but it does happen.
Thank you.
So, any other questions? All right, I'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you,
For the
Brian.
council update. Moving on, item 6, I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming.